What up, everybody? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful morning on this Friday Eve. I have somebody that's coming up to help you as a parent. For those of you who are kids and still trying to figure out this math, this stuff is not easy to remember. However, we're going to bring back somebody who's been on the show, who helped so many people out before and actually has his own channel. It's called All This Math. I'm gonna get it right. And his name is Akil. But before we bring him up to the stage, I'm just gonna gotta get paid right quick. So we just play this little quick intro and we'll see you guys in a bit. You're listening to the About That Wallet podcast. We'll be right back after these messages.
Even the best and the brightest this world has to offer have coaches and mentors. Build strong money-making behaviors by applying financial concepts and strategies with Anthony Weaver on the About That Wallet Show. It's time to get off the bench and get in the game. Now, here's your host, Anthony Weaver.
What up? What's going on, Akil?
What's going on, brother?
Nothing much, man. It's been one of those years where I'm just tired. It's like you've been running. It just feels like it's so much to get done this year. Just so much information out there. It's just like, where do we begin to get things going? So I'm not sure about you, but that's for me.
You sound like a school teacher. Like in May, the end of May. Real tired. Yeah.
So, like, how's it been like that for you now? I mean,
Well, I've been consistently tired, like, through, but in a good way, because what do they say? The reward for good work is more work. So there's always more work to do. So, trying to improve the relationship between mathematics and the Black community, it's a lot of work to do, a lot of opportunities to try to help not only youth develop their math proficiency and math confidence, but also parents. That's another frontier I'm really trying to enter into head on, is to help parents, because oftentimes, like with tutoring and with a lot of programming, there's such a focus, such a singular focus just on the young people. But in the household, the parents are there, the uncles and aunts are there, the grandparents are there, and once upon a time they were children, and they didn't probably get the help. In many cases, they may not have gotten the help or the instruction that they really needed, the quality instruction and the reinforcement and the reassurance in their own math ability. So now, they're walking around with this kind of chip on their shoulder, feeling like they hate math and that math is irrelevant. And, it kind of, they end up passing it on to the young people that they're around. So what I want to do is I want to also help parents, help adults to, get beyond their fears of math and their anxieties associated with math. And even if they think that, they don't need to use it in their life, or, they're fine and they don't need that. Well, you sort of don't really know what you don't know.
Right.
And, because people could say that about financial literacy. A person could be like, well, I don't know anything about the stock market. I don't know anything about investing. I don't know anything about real estate. I don't know anything about tax law. And theoretically, a person could say that they're fine, right? But it's not until they learn about some of those things, then they realize, oh, I wish I did know this, because this is a valid and viable tool that I could have been using. And I'm glad I know about it now, because now I can begin to use it. And that's how math is as well. It's really a valid and viable tool. So, that's the work that we're doing, just, trying to get people to come out of their comfort zone and, kind of develop some math skills and kind of develop a different perspective, so that way and also they won't have to rely so much on schools, whether they be public schools, charter schools, private schools, because then you take a sense of ownership over your child's education, much more ownership and much more agency. And you're able to say, like, okay, well, I understand these standards. I understand what's going to be on these standardized tests that everybody stresses about. I can help you with this in the house, or we can, develop our skills together.
Yeah, because one of the things that I had a issue with not really an issue, but I just kind of wish I had known sooner, is like just regular person or even just as a student is understanding where in the world can I find out the standards for my local school. Because sometimes I think some of the schools are getting better where they actually posting the standards for their particular curriculums, especially if they're controversial, but they don't do that for all subjects. And I'm thinking that with math, once you understand the curriculum and understand the standards, is that something from your expertise? Will that actually help a parent or kind of deter them? Be like, hey, I don't know what they're talking about. Like,
I
what
mean,
should they do?
I think initially for some parents it's going to be intimidating. I think it
Mhm.
is. I think that's important to bring up is that when you're embarking upon something that you've never done before. You're trying to do research. You're trying to find, okay, well, if my child is in the sixth grade, what are the standards for the sixth grade, and what is a standard? What does that even mean, right?
Right.
Because that's kind of like teacher speak, and a lot of times we're kind of engineered socially and conditioned to want to kind of stay away from that because we feel like teaching is such a specialized profession, and it can be. um but in a lot of ways there are many things that parents can do, that teachers do or that teachers are expected to do. So going online, doing the research, going to the school district website, and even just doing a search for like sixth grade standards, or not even doing that, just doing a Google search, a general Google search, whatever grade your child is in, just say, okay, fifth grade math standards, and then a whole bunch of websites are going to come up, and then that's where the fun starts, because now you got to like start mining through all the data and all the information, and you find out the different standards, whether it's common core or whether it's a different nomenclature system, with the different codes and the letters and whatnot. And that's the part that I think can get intimidating to people, because
Yeah.
it's kind of like with legal statutes. you
Yes.
that's section
Hmm.
8.2.58. Like, that's meant to intimidate people, because you feel like, oh well, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school, and I don't practice law, so this must be above my wheelhouse. I must not be intelligent enough to understand this, because it makes me feel like I'm reading a contract. But even reading contracts, if you read contracts, which by the way, most contracts are just, I see them as extended math word problems, right? Because there's
Pretty
quantitative
much.
analysis you have to do to really understand them, and there's often going to be money involved. So that's a quantity. So that's just it's just a math word problem, right?
Yeah.
But if you start reading that stuff, at first it might not make sense, and that's okay. But as you continue to try to pour through it, you start to make sense of it, and then it's like, okay, I kind of get it now, you know and then you can ask people like, what do you think this means? I think that's another thing that we need to do more of as a community of people, is learn in community, or learn by community. Ask questions to other people, and not and try to not be as embarrassed about the fact that we may not fully understand something and be able to comprehend something on our own. Because I mean, it's the reality. I mean, we could try to act like we could try to hide the fact that we don't understand, but hiding the fact that we don't understand will deter us from getting the help that we need so that we can understand. So we have to learn how to, or be willing to put our egos to the side. And I know that's easier said than done. I know it's
Right.
easier said than done, especially if you're a person that
Who
may not
said
have
Atlanta
the
University
uh,
before
a
Atlanta
lot of
University really
experiences,
looked for a
getting
college
right
and
answers or
became
being
fucking
seen as the
university.
smart person in the
All right.
room.
Hmm.
It's
So
easy, like
let's get into
when you
this
grow
word
up,
for today. And also,
feeling
before we
like
go
you're the
on,
smart
make
person
sure
in the
you're
room, and
subscribed
people
to the
regard you
YouTube
like
channel.
that.
Make sure you
It's
subscribe to the
easy to
YouTube
say, well,
channel
I
for
don't
all this
understand this,
math. And
because actually
also
what
check
happens
us
in
out on
those
Instagram
situations,
because we have content on Instagram as well at
people
all
that
this
hear
math.
you admit that
So
you don't
subscribe to
understand
the
something, then they
Instagram and
start
also
to think, it kind of
make sure you subscribe to
reinforces
this YouTube
the
channel.
status
And
that
also,
they
when you finish
bestowed upon
watching
you
this
already.
video, share it with
Because then
somebody
they
else who
start to
might
think
benefit
like,
from it.
oh, well, this
All
must be
right.
something really
Now,
difficult because you
today,
don't even
we're going to talk
understand it,
about a
Right.
word problem.
right?
And we're going to
But so
talk
I
about some
understand. I
personal
understand like
finance,
the
right?
trepidation
Everyday math,
when people
right?
don't
This is
want to
that everyday math, that relevant
want to
math.
admit that they don't
There's no
understand something.
arguments,
But I mean,
for
looking at
people about whether
standards
we
and
need to
everything,
know
that's
how to
what we
do
got to do.
this, right? This
And
particular
will
problem.
it be one of those cheat codes or something? I think it's actually important that a lot of people just go down and ask the teacher sometimes and be like, hey, this is something that, you all should be aware of. And I don't think a lot of teachers actually take that extra step. I know they already doing a lot already,
Mhm.
but just to kind of say like, hey, with this homework, these are the standards on this website. So you can go ahead on and follow on what we going through. or for this, because you know how it is. We gotta do unit plans, and
Yeah.
the unit plans give you out for the whole unit, whether or not it's a month or 2 months out, so they can all follow. But keeping that in mind, why is it important that the parents actually understand what's going on from the mass perspective for their children?
Well, for a lot of reasons. One reason is because, I mean, as a parent, your responsibility is to protect your child and
Hmm.
to guide them. We can't leave it up to, a school system. We can't leave it up to a school. The school is not really equipped to provide your child with everything that they need. Schools never have been equipped to do that. I mean, I think some of us have gotten lucky. If you attended a certain school that had a certain collection of teachers in the building, a certain type of administration in the building, maybe your child or children may have received certain benefits from that, but that's more an exception to the rule. And as parents, you have to at least know what is going on, know what the school is doing, what their plans are, what their curriculum is. And I understand it's a lot. A lot of parents push back, and because we've been all socialized to outsource it to the school, and that benefits the society because it helps the society to maintain a status quo. So if the society needs a constant surplus of menial laborers or menial workers, and parents kind of just mind their business, don't say nothing, just send them to school, make sure that they're on time, make sure they're clean, have their uniform on or whatever, their teeth are brushed and all that, then the school can kind of do whatever they want. And the parents can't really even interject and even say anything. But you want to be able to interject. You want to know what's going on. And actually, what I advocate for is for parents to be the primary educators and for the
Hmm.
school to become secondary. School has to become secondary. Right now, I think we would agree that at least, the perception is, or the way schools present themselves to be generally, is the primary educator. I think the parents have to become the primary educator. Now, that involves a paradigm shift. That is not going to be easy. I want to be very clear, abundantly clear. That's not going to be easy for parents to become primary educators, especially if you have parents that may not have certain skill sets or certain awareness of certain topics and information. Parents that are working full-time jobs and then maybe a part-time job on top of that. So as a community, we have to figure out a way to enable more parents to become primary educators. And then, but at the same time, we can leverage, the efforts of other parents and become more communal. If we start becoming more communal, and just like how we have the people that we trust, that we let our children spend the night at certain people's houses and whatnot, and because we trust the parents, we know the adults that are going to be supervising, at least I would like to think we do. And so it's a similar thing, so if you as a parent can't really be that singular force to know all that information, there perhaps will be somebody in your community that does know, and then your child can still benefit just as their children will be able to benefit. But parent, I think the long-term goal should be for parents to become, if they're not already, because some parents already are, but the long-term goal is for parents to become the primary educators of their children, and schools to be secondary, schools to supplement what the parents have. Because then when we talk about, like, for example, like the standards is just an explanation of and a description of the plans that the school has for your child. So those that run the school system, they decide what your child should know. But imagine what type of world we have, or even what type of household you would have, if you took the time out to decide what you want your child to know.
Right. And that's why I wanted to pull up an article that I thought was pretty interesting. Let me just see if I could pull this up right quick, because I think this would be something that's interesting, which going along the lines that what we are discussing, which is having the guys more involved. So this article, for those of you who are listening via the audio portion of it, is talking about the vanishing fathers. The An epidemic of absent men is causing children to fail academically and socially. So let's see what she has to say here. So I can pull this up and play.
I'm going to prejudge her because she's on Fox News.
Oh. Why my stuff ain't playing? Oh my gosh. All right. My stuff ain't gonna play. Mine ain't gonna play. All right. See, this is what happens when you don't preload things ahead of time. So let me see if I can reload the page, get it going. Okay.
Yeah, because now
Let's
I really
say
want to
let's
now I
try that.
really want to hear what she got to say now.
Right. Let's see if I can do this, that. Try to reload. See what happens. All right, all the ads coming in now.
BP supports more than 300,000 U.S. jobs, developing lower carbon energy and keeping
Right.
oil and gas
I
flowing
think I'm
with
gonna have to
fewer
mute
emissions.
this
It's
until
and, not or.
mute it until the thing comes up because one of the things is that don't want to get copyrighted. All right, here we go.
Homeless youths, 90% of them don't have a father. And then you're talking about youths that have substance abuse issues, that's 70%, high school dropout, 71%. I mean, all women that have been exploited, 70%. Like, look, like think about those numbers. Like they're just so high. Even the 2023 census report, it was a little bit over 15 million children that don't have an involved father. And I mean, that roughly goes to 1 out of 5 kids. So the mother is so very important. Think about it. Okay, so you have a baby and the baby's, an infant. And that baby needs the mom. Like I am the food source. I am the nurturer. Like that is where really the moms are extremely important, and that baby cannot live without the mom. And then you see the toddler phase of it, and that rough and tumble play is very important for boys. It kind of like shows them how to be rough and tough, get that energy out, but also not go to the extreme, right? To kind of be able to hold in that. You have a child and the child goes out. The father, what they do is they give them the ability to go out into the world, knowing that they might fail, but that's okay. Giving them that courage to be able to go out into the world and that independence and being able to feel okay. And then when they come back, when they do fail, the mom is there to kind of tell them it's okay, nurture them. And then the father is there to say, all right, you're done. Let's go. It's time to go back out again. So think about when toddlers are little, like sometimes I have to even turn my head with like my husband because, he lets them do things that I wouldn't let them do, because I'm too scared. They give them the confidence to go out and be independent, that confidence to take chances. And they're extremely important with the upbringing of children. I think it boils down to a lot of what society now.
I'm not sure if I can even finish this, dude. It's like so many sexist, like separation of like independence. I'm like, there are a lot of women that I know that was like, hey, if you want to go scuff your knees up, go for it.
Mhm.
But it's not always the guy's job, and to say like, oh, the lack thereof because you don't have a guy in your life to help raise your child. It's like moms do the same thing, so it's like I don't know. You got anything to say before I finish this? Let's see who's trying.
Well, first, I mean, she was throwing out a lot of data in the
Yeah,
beginning, and I'm always wary of people that try to throw data out in the beginning, or at any point, because I like to analyze and understand the statistics and the percentages and the ratios that they present. And I think that's something that we should all adopt. We should, because sometimes, like, I think that's like a hallmark, like trying to sound intelligent and trying to sound like they're an astute observer and they have a certain level of awareness. Like that data should be scrutinized. So I
yeah,
think like we have to, question and like wonder, not to say that it's wrong, but I didn't have the time to process all of it because, I didn't have the time to fact check any of it. But I think that's something that we should adopt, this kind of desire to just question data that's thrown at us. Um, I was listening to what she was saying. I mean, I do agree that I think, fathers should be present, especially as it pertains to the larger conversation about, education. I don't
right.
know if that's specifically what she was going to get to. She didn't
Well,
necessarily say that.
let's see what else you got to say, because I'm curious about what you were saying too. Like, where is this going at? So, all
Yeah.
right,
Is focusing on, and they don't talk at all about the importance of a dad being in with a home. They also don't, they speak very negatively about toxic masculinity and all of these aspects of being a man that are negative. So they're kind of telling them that these unique traits that they biologically have that are absolutely wonderful and that we need are bad. And they're also not encouraging. So if you think of the school system, that is not conducive very well to boys learning. They're just girls and boys are made so differently, and they're not really appreciating those unique traits that boys have. And so what they're doing is that when they don't have a father within a home, and then they're hearing all of this, that what they're doing is bad and boys are bad and the way that you act is bad and you shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that, but that's completely incorrect.
Okay. I mean, ultimately, I think she kind of finally came around to it. If she had a little bit more time to kind of go back to, it's like, yeah, you can do the rough and tumble stuff, but it doesn't have to be, locked in by gender. And, like I say, because what she talked about was most likely was personality, not so much the physical aspects of male versus female, and like the father versus the mother in the upbringing of a child. So it's like the rough and tough can come from either male or female. Same thing with the soft side of the house. It could be from the male or female, just empathy and sympathy and nurturing side of the house that she was talking about. And I think you and I, we both went through understanding like the terminology regarding uh is it nurturing nature versus nurture process, and that's very common to come through with like, but I'm getting back to from the math side of the house. It's like educating and learning things, some things you can actually learn
Mhm.
by observing from the natural environment that you're in. And I feel as though, like from a math perspective, and actually helping the parent, it all depends on either a upbringing and comfortability. And that's what I kind of truly strongly believe in, because like this reason why I posed the question for the people in the chat. Did math come easy to you when you were in grade school? You know, that's one of those things. It's like if it didn't come easy to you, then it's almost like why? What what was going on in your household? What was going on? What were the conversations like when you talked about math? Was it something like, oh, nobody want to help you out, so now you stuck on your own trying to figure this stuff out? Like, give me something.
Yeah, I think for people that it came easy to, just from conversations I've had with them, it seems that they had a certain like foundation.
Mm,
They had a strong, very strong and solid foundation in terms of like math fluency. So then with other topics that, because math is such a cumulative subject, such a cumulative discipline, and that's what people fail to realize. And so a lot of the issues that people have in subsequent math courses are not so much due to the current course content, but it's due to those learning gaps and those blind spots that people have from the past. Like there's so many people that really don't have a strong grasp of arithmetic. And
mm,
when I say arithmetic, I really mean number sense and the relationship between numbers and the relationship between factors. And they don't have, multiplication facts memorized up to 12 times 12 at a minimum. So all those things play a part because then it makes division harder, and that makes understanding just the concept, the mere concept of fractions, of what a fraction is, much more difficult when you lack those foundational elements, just like with a lot of things in life. So I think when we say, but I think what often happens is when people say that math came easy to them, and or when people hear people say that math came easy to them, we kind of attribute it to this like genetic marker, something in
mm,
their like DNA, when in fact it really is, I think in most cases, just the fact that they had a strong foundation. So with that strong foundation, they were able to leverage that and kind of parlay that into, a certain experience in math classes and in, just in everyday life where they were able to navigate in certain ways because they had a certain awareness and an understanding of, okay, this is how these numbers relate to each other. And if I know how these numbers relate to each other, then I know how these quantities relate to each other. So then it's easier for me to pick up on, these all these different types of mathematical situations, or even when you get into the stock market, or this numbers. Like when people say like this person was a numbers guy or whatever, they were always good with numbers. I think it's about the foundation. I think it's
Yeah,
about like them having a solid and strong foundation, in number sense and in arithmetic, and because that could take you so far, knowing how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide very fluently at an early age. Because when you can do it early, then you have more time to practice the more advanced things.
true. And one of the things that got me surprisingly that a lot of people don't take advantage of. I mean, when you and I were growing up, homework was mandatory.
Mhm.
So for me, doing the homework was always the thing that got me understanding and really liking math. Is once I've really understood it, you start learning about the rules about it and start doing more. And like, okay, now you're searching for more because they didn't give you enough homework. And that was me. Like once I got it, like, cause I love solving puzzles or problems. So math came, it didn't come easy. Let's just say it came after repetition
Yeah.
because
Yep.
I constantly kept looking at it, kept doing it. And it's just like with anything else in life. You don't need that validation that you can do something. It's just that once you're able to take time out in your life and actually hone in on any craft, you can do it. It's just that are you willing to take that time to continue on having that childlike mentality to continue on and asking those questions like, hey, why is this the way this is? Or, hey, if I could do it with this, what else can I take this to? Or, what can my imagination take it, to that next level? And I think most mathematicians really looked at life that way. It's like, how can we expand on what we already know to kind of take that to the next level? And I think a lot of us lose out that childlike mentality as life been going on because of so much social media that's happening in life. Like we constantly keep reading or seeing other people having a great time, but not really taking time out to learn about it.
Right, right. So to your point, so my homeboy Mike, so we've been reading this book. I've been kind of he's much further along than I am, but
Uh,
this is
what's the book
Humble
called?
Pie,
Mm-hmm.
When Math Goes Wrong in the Real World by
Oh,
Matt
nice.
Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote in here, and I'm gonna paraphrase it because I can't remember it verbatim, but he basically says that a lot of people think that mathematicians or math comes easy to mathematicians or to people that excel in math, but it's not that math comes easy. It's that people that excel in math or mathematicians, they enjoy difficult problems.
Yep.
And that really is something that really it, it really has a lot more to do with just mindset and personal perspective than even mathematical ability. Because if you're a person and we just take a moment, just if we just as people just take a moment, just sit back and just think about how do we embrace things that are easy versus how do we embrace things that are difficult,
Yeah.
right? I know it may be, I guess, human nature to take the path of least resistance, or always try to like work smarter or not harder. But what if you did something different? What if you moved differently? What if you said, you know, I'm going to embrace this problem. I'm going to
Embrace
try
the
to find a
suck.
solution, and I'm going to
Yeah.
enjoy the process of trying to solve this problem instead of becoming so overwhelmed by the problem and becoming so flustered and then trying to just escape from the problem and forget about it by going to get drunk or get high or doing some type of outlandish activity that's going to distract you completely from the problem itself, which probably will actually compound the problem even more. But what if we just did that? What if we just said, what if I just like lean into the existence of this problem? Not because I want to, not because you want to enjoy having the problem, but because you want to enjoy the process of solving the problem. Because you don't want the
Yeah.
problem, you want
Right.
to eliminate the problem. But a lot of people are just like it's we have this aversion to problem solving.
Mm.
We have a natural a lot of people have a natural aversion to problem solving, and I think part of it is because we don't know how to solve problems, which in my opinion is where the math comes into play, because I believe that math is the single greatest, most appropriate subject to develop problem solving skills among human beings. So if we don't develop math skills, then we in turn do not develop problem solving skills. And then when we have problems, we're confronted with them. If we recognize the problem, because that's another part of problem solving, being
That's
able
true.
to first identify the problem, right?
Yep.
So if you're able to identify it, then you're like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now, right? And then you have this feeling like, oh, well, I hate problem solving, so I'm just gonna like, run away from that, you know. Whereas, if you adopt it, and if we as parents and adults can also try to instill in our children and motivate them to approach problems in a certain way, where we say, and even if we model this behavior, if they see us kind of just become kind of invigorated by a problem, not because we want the problem to exist, but because we want to destroy the problem, we want to solve the problem, right?
Right.
And they witness us do that while they're growing up, and then hopefully they may adopt that, and then they may have a different approach to problems, and then they may end up wanting to go into engineering, because engineers are just problem solvers.
That's
That's
all it is.
what
Right.
they do all day long. They just solve problems, you know.
I think at the end of the day, all of our jobs are there to solve problems because that's how business start. So for those of you who are looking to start your business, if you don't understand what the problem is or the opportunity to take care of a problem, then you can miss out on a lot of either capital, opportunities for your business, opportunities to build a connections or build that network. So I would say, like you said, mentioned earlier, it's like that situational awareness
Mhm.
and that critical thinking, because I could tell that you're already a amazing critical thinker, like about everything.
I try to be.
Right.
I try my best.
Right.
You know.
But it comes across in your students too, because I mean, you see your kids when you teaching your math. I like watching your videos where you're actually having showing some of the simple problems and making them seem more exciting than what they really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is it that that parents can do to kind of? I mean, because obviously the parents have to continue to go through and push themselves to learn or be excited about a problem. What type of language should a parent use to kind of keep their child involved or excited about a particular problem that you've seen to be helpful?
They should use words like yet instead
Hmm.
of can't or don't. Like when the child brings the homework home and they say, I don't know how to do that. Like I never was good at math. Um, adopt some different vocab. Well, first adopt a different approach where you might say, I don't know how to do this yet, but you know what? We're gonna figure this out. And a lot of parents are doing that too. Like a lot of parents do
Good.
it. um Shout out to those parents that are fighting through those homework assignments. And again, that's why one of the reasons I created the YouTube channel and I maintain it, all this math on YouTube, is to make the process easier, to provide fully worked out example problems. Because that's one thing that frustrates me too, like when I'm in a tutoring session and I'm asking a student like, well, you have this homework problem that we have to do,
Right.
so where is the example? Where is the fully worked out example that your teacher gave you or went over and completed in class today that mirrors this problem? Like, where is that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, and they're like, oh, I don't know. Like, she didn't really do that, or he didn't really do that.
They did that. Like,
Like, are you sure? Like, where's that problem? And I think so. Sometimes I do think it's the child's responsibility or
hmm
lack of responsibility. But I do think sometimes that some teachers are just kind of, they're not really providing like guided instruction,
mm,
sometimes. So I think it is a mixture of both. And and also, so sometimes what also happens is, you have teachers that like create problems or just find problems online and just like assign them, and they haven't worked the
they
problem
haven't
out
worked them out.
themselves.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, in the tutoring session, I'm looking at the problem, I'm like, this problem is fugazi.
Right.
Like, this problem makes no sense, right? I'm looking at it like so they probably meant to, this number was supposed to be here and that number was supposed to be here. Now I only know that because of the benefit of having seen tens of thousands of problems just like this in the past 20 years, you
hmm
know, as a teacher. So, but then I think about all the students that don't get tutoring and the parents that do try to help with the homework, and then the parent, they can't get the answer, and then the parent is frustrated, and then the child is frustrated, and all along, and then they're doubting themselves,
Yep.
So then they, those self-deprecating thoughts creep in, right? That the parent has, and then that the child has too. And all along, it's like, nah, it's not y'all. The problem is wrong. Like the problem itself is not written correctly, or the appropriate information has not been provided within this problem.
That
And
part.
I see that often too. So but again, that's why I want for parents to become more comfortable with the math, so that they can be able to have that filter where they can recognize, like, wait, no, this is not set up properly, or no, we don't have enough information to even answer this question, or this is worded in a very strange way. But because a lot of us don't have the confidence in our own mathematical ability,
Hmm.
we always often default to, it must be us. It could never be anything wrong with the problem that's written or printed. It could never be anything wrong with what the teacher sent home and provided, right? Because we always assume that we are at fault because of our lack of confidence in our ability. So parents, I want parents to develop their confidence in their mathematical ability, but there's no shortcut to that.
Right.
Herein lies the problem. There's no shortcut to that. You have to do
True.
the work. You have to do a lot of practice. You have to do a lot of problems so that you
And I
then can get to that point.
and I think, which goes back to how we pretty much started this off. It's like feeling that confidence, and in order to build confidence, we need to have competence, by doing a lot of these problems and getting familiar. This Baltimore accent is killing me. Familiar with the content and the awareness and know-withal of the situation that's going on, especially with their kids, and dealing with how they are feeling on a day-to-day basis. And again, it goes back to that conversations. What are the conversations looking like when you having those discussions? So where do we go from here? I mean, because we talked about it pretty much, how the parents can try to change their language. We talked about how keeping the parents involved in the conversation with their children. But how do we, going forward, see, like, as the problem that we all see, or the issue? How can we solve this issue of getting parents to be more comfortable with the material, open up these conversations, and then also be available to just continue to make this fun?
Better marketing.
Mm.
I'm always about marketing in terms of, because it's really like we're selling something.
Hmm.
We're selling an idea to parents that they can be they can be at some point the primary educator of their child. And even if they're not going to be the primary educator, they can be a very willing and active participant in their child's education. And I'm only speaking about mathematics, but
Right.
it can extend to every subject, any and every subject. I just think that there definitely has to be marketing. And yeah, so that's why, like, I often, whenever I hear like educators or administrators or teachers or whomever, or just lay people in the community just talk about what parents aren't doing and what parents don't do and this and that. And I'm like, I always think about business. I look at it from a business standpoint, and I'm just like, Pepsi would never say these people aren't buying Pepsi.
Right. That's true.
Apple would never say these people don't want to buy iPhones and just throw their hands up like, oh my God, like,
Right.
and blames it. No, they hustle. They get out there, they market. They say, look, we're gonna make you, like, corporations sell us so much stuff that is harmful to us with
Hmm.
just reckless abandonment. They just don't care. Like, like, listen, we're going to manipulate you and dictate to you and tell you what you should buy, and we're going to separate you from your money the best way we can. They're fierce marketers, and with ideas like this that will actually help us tremendously, help our children, help ourselves, help our community, in terms of developing mathematical proficiency and ability. We have to be just as aggressive and just as vicious as these corporations are when they're trying to sell us products. We got to do that, and we got to figure out a way to get buy-in, because, like, it's as if, like, buy-in is something that we do want parental buy-in, but the buy-in has to be manufactured. You got to make that happen,
Right.
you know and it takes effort. It's not easy, but I think we first have to agree that we have to be the ones that are responsible for that. Like, so that's why, like, I do a like that's why I'm here now. Like, right. So you know, I just like to talk about math, right? And have more positive. It's something I decided, you know, to do like 3 or 4 years ago. It's like, you know what? We in the Black community, we need to have more positive conversations about math, because we don't typically have positive conversations about math. So I set out to just say, you know what? We're going to talk positively about math. We're going to talk more about math. We're going to discuss math in more positive ways and offer solutions, instead of just, you know, kind of just parroting and, you know, regurgitating the same, you know, causes for alarm. You know, we're going to offer like solutions and like create resources that, you know, the community can use and that people can have, you know, to make themselves like kind of just feel more confident about, you know, being more mathematically inclined. But it's definitely just like, it's a marketing issue, because any math teacher will tell you, if they're honest, math with the proper environment, the proper learning environment, and with consistent practice, anyone can become a math scholar. Anyone can master mathematical topics. Anyone can become proficient with the right environment and with the right factors, as I said. But you also, because so many of us have been conditioned socially to hate math, to fear math, to believe that we cannot do math, that's what we're really fighting against. That's the uphill battle. It's the belief. You know, it's the belief that, because, you know, it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, person looks at a math problem, they try to do it. Somebody might try to explain it to them, and then they try to do it on their own. They get it wrong, and then they just want to throw in the towel and say, "Look, see, I told you I couldn't do it." It's like, wait, you're not supposed to be able to do it. Like that's normal. That's normal. But because it's math, you think, because of how you've been conditioned, that if you don't get it correct immediately, then you're not smart enough to do it. Right? Nobody does that with any other area of life, any other topic, or any other thing. A video game, like, children will do that with math, with a math topic, but they don't do that with a video game. They first start playing a video game, they lose. Okay,
let's go run it back. Let's run it back.
Run it back. Let's go. Like, you're never gonna say, "See, I'm not good at video games. See, that's why I hate video games. Throw out the PS5." Like, but they'll do that with math though, because they've been conditioned to think that. And I also believe that it's beneficial to make the maintenance of the status quo, because it's really about problem solving. If you can convince people to run away from math, you're also convincing them to run away from problem solving. And this is a zero-sum game. So if I benefit from the persistence and the presence of your problem, I don't want you to ever solve your problem. Because either I want to continue to profit from the existence of your problem, or I want to be the only person that can come on the scene and get paid to solve your problem for you. Right. So once you learn how to solve problems, now the jig is up. Now we got a problem, because now you're self-reliant. Now you can do for yourself. Now, you know, you're looking at me differently. Maybe you don't need me as much. Right. So I gotta convince you to run away from math. Right. And I gotta keep that ingrained in you. Right. So when you get the first math problem wrong, you just want to quit and say, "See, math is too hard." Right. Even though everything else in your life, you mess it up the first time, you don't quit.
Oh, like walking. How about that? The very fundamental thing that we do. For most people who can, I know that those of you who cannot, not to discriminate on that part of the house, but, you know, just kind of one of those things that, you know, majority of the people can do is walk, and just looking at that 80% process. So, but giving up, and I have to say that that's one of the things that I feel is something. How can we look at failure differently?
Oh, yeah. That's something that's a personal, you know, issue for me too. Like, something I've thought about a lot over the past years. And I think actually early in my teaching career, I would have been a much better teacher earlier had I viewed failure differently, and had I viewed mistakes differently, because that's what that's what you learn from, you know. And if it's a learning process, then the mistakes and the errors are going to come with the territory.
So give us an example.
So I mean, like, you know, going over a typical math problem, and, you know, student makes a mistake, and or a video, a recent video I made on my YouTube channel. Every so often, one of these major social media platforms like Baller Alert or Shade Room or whatever, they post one of these math problems where you have to use the order of operations,
Right.
and they do this intentionally because people are going to come in there that don't really know the order of operations and are going to post the answer and then be arrogant and then
Right.
try to flex on people and be loud and wrong, and people are all in the comments going crazy, and then next thing you know, that this comment has 892 replies, and then this next comment has 375 replies. And so I just said, look, I'm gonna just do the problem on my channel. But again, I took it as an opportunity because some people, there were some very popular wrong answers, right? So just like as teachers do, as math teachers, we do error analysis. And then we show the students like, okay, well, this is why this person made this mistake. And this is modeling, because this is something that students need to do, right?
Right.
You need to check your own work and understand why you made the mistake and be able to speak intelligently about what your mistake was. So that's where we benefit from the error, right? Oh yeah, that's the last. Matter of fact, I just posted that like before I got on here, like
Yeah.
30 minutes ago. That's fresh. So I got the same T-shirt on.
You had like three.
So yeah, but yeah, we were doing error analysis, and I was showing how like, okay, this is why. And actually, I think it's kind of cool because it's like you're trying to you're searching like, okay, well, how did they get this wrong?
Mhm.
Like you're trying to like diagnose a problem. Like, how did they get this wrong? Oh, I see what they did. They treated this 4 like it was a negative, or treated this 4 like it was a positive 4 instead of treating it like it's a negative 4.
Right.
That indicates that they don't understand the nomenclature of mathematics, because math is a language in itself.
Yep.
And I
It
think
has its
that
own
is
dialect.
one of the frustrating parts for a lot of people. If you're not taught the language of math and how the different expressions and the terms and the constants and the numbers and the variables, how they all work together to create like statements,
Yep.
and you miss one part, it'll throw everything else off. Because you're like, a lot of times we just like memorize like certain bits and pieces, like, and then PEMDAS, I talked about PEMDAS too, how PEMDAS is problematic. It's very
Yeah.
problematic because it does PEMDAS for a lot of people. It does more than what it was ever meant to do.
Well, please
PEMDAS,
excuse my dear and Sally.
yeah, it was only meant to just remind you of
Mhm.
certain steps in the order of operations, but it's not the complete
Mm-mm.
explanation of the order of operations. It's not the complete algorithm. It's only part of it. But people always just memorize. A lot of people, unfortunately, they only memorize the letters.
Yep.
So they're like, okay, well, the M is before the D, so that means I always got to multiply before I divide. Or the A is before the S, so I always got to add before I subtract. And then, but when you get into the actual problems, like there's a lot of nuance to it, right? Like, okay, what do I do with this negative sign? Or what does this negative sign even mean, right? This negative sign represents a -1 that's being multiplied by the number right after it. But
Right.
if you don't really know the math and the deeper meaning, right, then it's a very strong chance you're going to get the wrong answer, which is what people did on that post, which is
Yeah.
why I made that video. And but again, we benefit from that because a lot of times, I mean, we get the errors from wherever we can get them from. There's a lot of times like, students will be embarrassed because of like the way we've been conditioned, the way I was conditioned, that the process is not as a young child. Even I was conditioned that the process is not as important as the right answer. It's all about the right answer, right?
And that's how, we were conditioned that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times a child, they won't expose the fact that they got the wrong answer,
Right.
and they won't even think about, well, because, well, how did you get it? And then one of the things I said in the video was, this is why, to parents that get frustrated when the teacher insists that their child must show their work, that is not a punishment to your child.
Mm-mm.
That is meant to benefit your child, because if your child doesn't show their work, and let's say they get a wrong answer, I don't know, the teacher won't know how they got that wrong answer. So then I can't help them by showing, what the mistake was. I don't know what their thought process was. And even if they got the right answer, sometimes you coincidentally will get the correct answer by doing something wrong. You might have did something wrong, right? But then you'll be upset when the test comes around and you get a similar type of problem and you get it wrong because the coincidence didn't work out for you this time, right? So we have to also like show our work, and also like showing your work is nothing to like, I guess to downplay. I mean, it's an opportunity for you to assert yourself. Like it's your
Yeah.
work. Like this is your time to like stand on your work and let people know, like, look, this is my answer. This is what I did to get my answer, and this is why it's right. And maybe you are right, maybe you might be wrong. But if at least if you find out that you're wrong, you know why you're wrong. So
Right.
hopefully you won't repeat that mistake again at another time.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think I did mostly with the kids was trying to explain to them, like, I have that free period where we can just answer the questions. We'll have that fun moment. But then it's like, hey, all right, now it's time to we'll take one problem, one or two problems to actually fully express it out, like, really dig in. And then I would create once we do that, it was like, all right, now that we all mastered this, all right, let's do a speed run. Let's hammer it out, like have fun with it and just see what you know. And I think one of the things that kind of hurts a lot of people, and I would say more than likely in the community of as an adults, because we have that PTSD of how we were treated when we were um, outspoken in a group of classroom to be wrong. And it's like, hey, it's okay to be wrong, but also like up to the teacher at that point on what they say to kind of determine, like, is it okay to be wrong in the classroom?
Right.
And I think a lot of teachers are changing that, but as adults, we have a lot to change in our own mindset to say, hey, it's okay because I didn't do this in school. Now I have to do this as an adult, because we have to explain from a business perspective. We have to explain, well, okay, this is what I'm building this business for, to help solve a problem. This is how I'm planning to solve that problem. And then when we go reach out for getting grants, or we looking to get some type of funding to take care of a project, we have to be able to explain that process.
Right.
And it all starts in math class. That's funny. I
Showing
think
your
about
work.
it. You gotta show your
Show,
work.
gotta show your work. Yeah, you gotta show your work.
All right, we coming up to the last 8 minutes of the show. I'm gonna go ahead on and let you go ahead on and tell people what you've been up to, how they can reach out to you, and any last words that you want to say to everybody before we hang this up.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, what I've been up to is just, building up the YouTube content, just having positive conversations around math, like trying to do the marketing, trying to really change the perception on math, because math is like for a lot of us, I would say generally, it's a necessary evil. We're up to almost 5,000 subscribers on the channel. So I want to thank everybody that's subscribed, and I hope if people are watching the videos, they subscribe, because I have my thoughts about that. I need to look at my analytics, but but yeah, so keep sharing the channel, keep telling people about it. And so what I want for this to be is like, this is the go-to resource. Like if you are a parent and you want to be able to help your child with their homework, this is your resource. If you are a child and you are a young person, high school student and middle school student, college student, and you need help in a class, or you don't understand your professor, you don't understand your teacher, you just don't understand. You might just needed to see it from somebody else. This is your resource, like the All This Math YouTube channel, right? Um, so that's what we've been doing. My first book, How to Use All This Math, another resource for parents, that's been doing pretty well, just letting people know about it. What I do with that book is I basically identify different everyday activities that people are doing anyway, like going into the kitchen to get a snack, or like, looking at, license plates when, we're riding in a car, or walking down the street seeing license plates on vehicles, and just using those as ways to practice arithmetic, practice algebra, practice geometry, even looking at like an analog clock, as and doing practicing geometry with geometry concepts, just different things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. The typical person wouldn't think of it, but I'm immersed in math. Like, I'm thinking about math constantly from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, so I'm thinking about math problems. Like I'm sitting in my house right now, I'm looking around like, okay, I could do a math problem with that right there, with that right there, or something I see on TV or whatever. So I published 20 different examples, in How to Use All This Math Volume 1, which can be found on Amazon. And my plan is for, and I told people this, so this is self accountability. I'm gonna put it out on this platform too. How to use all this math volume 2 should be completed by the end of the summer. So that should be dropping at the end of the summer. And speaking of the summer, if there's anyone watching this that is in Baltimore, we are doing a summer program, an in-person summer program, our first in-person summer program in Baltimore, over west, in West Baltimore. It's the Hystematics summer program. Now, what is Hystematics? I don't know if I discussed that the last time I was on here, but Hystematics is where we use history to teach mathematics, and we use mathematics to teach history. So history becomes the entry point for different mathematical lessons, and vice versa. And it's meant to make the history more meaningful, and it's also meant to make the math more meaningful by connecting it to a story of our actual lived experience, of Black history, right? Because that's, I mean, when I'm reading, different books, whether it's the narrative of Frederick Douglass or, autobiography of Malcolm X, Asada, Black Power, different books like that. Those are some of the books that we're going to be actually using for the summer program, by the way. And I'm going to be creating math word problems based on the text in those books, so it's a way for middle school students and high school students to be able to just learn their history, and also practice math skills in the summertime, at the same time, and be able to see math differently, because if I can connect process and algebra to, Malcolm X, or to Paul Robeson, or to Asada Shakur, you might be more likely to remember that process, and not confuse it with another process from algebra, or another process from geometry or something, because there's a story attached to it.
Yeah.
Right. Just like if somebody tells you a story about a person in your family, you will be more likely to remember it because you actually know that person. So you probably won't confuse it with another total stranger. You'll remember that person had that experience, and you'll be connected to it. So yeah, that's what we're doing in Baltimore. I'll give you the link for the application. We're still accepting applications. We have a lot of people have already been selected for the program, but we do have some limited slots left. And we have, it serves middle school students, grades 6 through 8, rising middle school students, and also high school students, grades 9 through 12, rising high school students, grades 9 through 12. And we're giving a small stipend at the end. There's no fee for the program. We are giving a small stipend, and it's in conjunction with the William J. Watkins Senior Institute. That's a nonprofit. It's actually my father's nonprofit. So we're working together. All this math is collaborating with the William J. Watkins Senior Institute, and also Baltimore Children and Youth Fund. So I can send you the digital flyer for you to like post on the when you upload this to YouTube.
Well, this is on YouTube now. We live.
Oh, live. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is my live Thursdays, man.
Well, the edit. I meant to say like the edit. If you do like an edit later on, maybe
I don't edit my lives.
Oh, you don't? Oh, cool.
No,
Cool.
that's straight nasty. We gonna get it out here.
I'm with it. Yeah, that's my fault. I was supposed to send you the flyer. I should have sent you the flyer.
Hey, it's okay though. But what I could do is I can always update the show notes with the link once it becomes available. And then what I would do is also, I haven't put out my main newsletter, so we can actually link up about that and put that. Just stay back after we done the live.
I just gave the website for the application in the private chat, so you can.
All right, let me put that up on the front. Bring that up to the front for everybody to see.
So yeah, there's the YouTube channel. Please, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Use the YouTube channel. Don't just subscribe because you think what I'm saying sounds good. Like you might want to support. Like actually use it. Like benefit. Benefit from it. Like all the different topics are organized into different playlists. So just take a look. And I want this to be the go-to resource. And also my videos. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them are infused with Black history. So you're going to get a little bit of Black history too, so you got to, and this is something that you don't see every day. So a Black man teaching math and providing Black history at the same time. You don't see that every day. So these are two areas that, children, young people, even adults can definitely benefit from. You might catch me, wearing a t-shirt of somebody that, you never saw before, never heard of before. Then you go down the rabbit hole, start doing research, and you find out this person was amazing. It's one of them. A lot of times you might have one of those experiences, like you'll be mad that you never heard of them before, you know,
Right.
which
And,
happens very often with us. You know,
and this is really good to kind of get the kids involved and stuff like that. So, say if there's other teachers that are out there that actually want to help out in this process, just asking for a friend here since you're local.
yeah,
If you need some volunteer help to kind of help bring this to life and stuff like that. So if somebody else want to come in, where would they go? Do they just reach out to you directly to say like, "Hey, I want to be part of this. I like what you're doing. How can we do that?"
they can reach out to me. They can reach out to me. I'd have to look to see if we have the capacity for that. But one thing they
Mhm.
definitely can do is to advertise it to their students, advertise it to any young people that they know, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a guidance counselor. It's going to be in West Baltimore. It's going to be held at Connections Academy, which is right on Gwynns Falls, behind what is that? The Bard School.
Mhm.
The Bard, is that like a music school? I think because Connections is an arts based school. It goes from grades 6 through 12, but it's going to be in that building. You know, um, around the corner from around the corner from Gwynns Falls Parkway, not too far from Mondawmin, not far from Douglas High School. Like I said, over west. You know,
Just over west.
yeah.
All right.
My sisters and them, they like West Baltimore. I mean, no, I don't have anything against West Baltimore, but I grew up in Northeast Baltimore, so I'm a little partial. I'm
I'm
partial to
with you.
Northeast
I'm with you on
Baltimore.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Because yeah, West. But thing about it though, West is pretty calming. It's very calm over there.
It depends. I mean, it depends on what part you at, But I mean,
Yeah.
I like to think I'm good in any hood. So,
Right.
but I'm just partial because that's I grew up in the Northeast over in the Northwood area near Morgan and all that.
Hmm.
So, and it's just so far. I think that's the other thing. Like when I want to go from my mom's house, where she lives past the village, past Edmondson Village, and then I'm
Hmm.
going over east or up to the northeast. It's such a long ride because if you
It
drive
is.
through the city, it's going to be a long ride. And you got to deal
North
with the
Avenue
potholes
straight
and everything.
across.
Because
Yeah.
like Baltimore streets is like Philly streets. It's crazy.
Hmm.
It's horrible, right? Um, but if you hop on a beltway, it's still going to take some time. It's better gas mileage. See that's math, right? Miles per gallon. Miles per gallon. We got to talk about that. We got
Right.
to think about those things. We should be able to calculate those things. But yeah, I think it's just the length of the trip that you got to take to get from west to east.
Okay.
You know,
So this program is a summer program, Monday through Thursday, and select Saturdays.
Fridays.
Um,
Well, then in the summertime, it's Monday through Thursday. That's the
okay,
academic work, and then on Fridays we're going to be attending trips. We're going to be visiting certain museums
gotcha.
and other places of interest in Baltimore. So that's what we're going to be doing for every week, except for maybe one of the weeks.
Hmm.
That hasn't actually been finalized yet, but we're finalizing the schedule of the trips as we speak. So, and then during the school year, there's going to be a virtual component on Saturday mornings
Gotcha.
during the
Yeah.
school year.
So
So we're
this
going to
is
keep it going.
actually pretty cool because if they're going to be in there all day long, is there something that they can like?
Well, they won't actually. So and
Oh,
actually, that's another thing. So that could be that's going to be beneficial to some people. So it's only like we're doing two groups. We're doing middle schoolers and high schoolers. So the middle schoolers come in the morning from 9 a.m.
gotcha.
to 11 a.m. And
Mm,
then there's lunch. You can stay and have lunch if you want. And then the high school students come in at 12 p.m. So they'll be there from
part of
12 p.m.
two.
to 2 p.m.
Okay.
So it's only 2 hours. 2 hours. We kind of it's like a study group model, similar to like the ASCAC study group, Association
Yeah.
for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. The study group model that I was introduced to through being a part of that organization. And yeah, we're just gonna be talking about the text, talking about books, and in addition to talking about what's happening in the text, we're gonna be doing some math problems based on what's happening in the text.
Nice.
So you know, and they, and my goal, one of my main goals is to have the young people to start to think about math in a different way. Like when they're reading books, like, oh, okay, because sometimes like we just read stuff and we don't think to question it. Like we don't, interrogate what we're reading. We just read it and just say, oh, okay. But I think a lot of times what happens is when you read something if you're constantly doing quantitative analysis, you start to question like, well, does that make sense? What was just written, or is that fair? You
Yeah.
know, because if it was this much, if he or she had to walk this far in this amount of time, or if their school was this far away from their house, then how long would it have taken them to get to school? Or you start to think, and then you can compare like, well, wow, like how far is my school from my house? And then see it becomes you start to have very different conversations based on books when you're doing actual quantitative analysis
Right.
and quantitative reasoning. And but in the app, a lot of times children aren't doing that, young people aren't doing that, adults aren't doing that because they don't have the math skills.
Right.
So what I'm saying is like I want people to have the math skills so that we can understand these books better. Because one of the things is this, like this is an example I use all the time. A student can sit in math class and not understand percentages.
Yep.
And that'll be exposed. Like, okay, ask you, okay, what is 58% of 1300?
Right.
And you have no idea how to do that. Okay. But then you go to history class and then you read, you have reading comprehension to an extent. You read a paragraph that talks about, 58% of US citizens, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
You read it, you sound like you grasp it because you know how to pronounce the words, right?
Mhm.
The teacher may not know that you don't understand what that concept means. Because
Right.
in math class, you were exposed. You didn't know what 58% of some value was. But in the history class, you can read the paragraph and read the number 58, read the percent symbol. You know that means 58%. And you can say it and then you just go on about your business. But you didn't understand what you just read
Right.
because you didn't know the math. But because formal education in Western society is so compartmentalized, we always we often think like, oh, well, that math doesn't have anything to do with this.
Right.
This is history.
They still thinking about that this in 2024, because this was a conversation that we were having well over 10 years ago.
I think
about this.
I think it's ingrained in a lot of people's psyche, and they've never confronted it and then said, no, math is part of everything. Or
Right.
there's math, or they'll say math isn't everything, but then
They
how does
don't.
that manifest itself?
Yeah.
It doesn't really manifest itself, because if you say to like a typical, like it's possible there could be history teachers out there that if you say to them, well, okay, well, we need for you to teach this child how to calculate percentages,
Right.
there might be pushback. And I think some of the pushback might be the result of them feeling like
They
that's
don't
not
know.
the space for this. But it is the
Right.
space for this,
It
because
is a
he's not going to
perfect space.
understand what he's reading
Right.
if they don't understand percentages as a concept. So it is the space for this.
It's almost like saying when Bill Gates walked into the bar, the average income is $1 million. It's like, well, yeah.
Exactly.
So if you want to go
That's
for
a good one. I got to
percentages,
use that. That's a good
yeah.
one. I like that one. Yeah.
So, but I mean, even Jay-Z used it in his song where it's like, oh, how many $1 billion is in the elevator? I think, or was it Beyonce?
Beyonce said that. Yeah.
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 So I mean, it's in the music, like it's everywhere. You gotta do it. Oh man! All right, Akil, man, this was a pleasure having you on.
Always, man.
Definitely would like to see more about this program to get people signed up for it, especially if you guys are in the Baltimore area who are listening. I know most of you who are listening to this are in other countries, but for those of you who are locally listening, I definitely want you to take full advantage of this program. I kind of wish I had something like this, or matter of fact, I won't say I wish it was something like this. I kind of wish I was aware of something like this when I was growing up, because there was a lot of programs when we were growing up. We just didn't have the internet to kind of share that information, or we weren't tuned into those programs, or the parents weren't tuned into those programs to kind of sign up for this. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you again for putting this together. Definitely would like to see the aftermath of all of it. So you definitely gotta come back and share, what your lessons learned, putting it together, how everything came through, what your thoughts, your feelings about it. Because in case somebody else out there that want to actually set up a program, something like this in their own state or in their own city, I think this can actually be helpful for them and beneficial to not just their own children, but for the community as well.
Definitely.
All right, sir. Well, thank you again. All right, everybody, make sure y'all like, subscribe, share. Y'all know what to do. I ain't gonna go with that. Just
comment too.
Comment.
Yeah,
please comment if y'all learn anything from this episode today. All right, everybody, y'all be safe. I'm out. Peace. What to find my outro? Keep forgetting where to find my outro. Oh, duh. I minimized it. There we go. All right, I'm out.